Let's bring in Iowa Republican Congresswoman Ashley Hinson. She's also running for the U.S. Senate. Republicans and Democrats are pointing the fingers at each other. How do you assess the responsibility here for the government shutdown?
Yeah, well, Republicans have voted time and time again, John, to keep the government open. And when I go out through the state campaigning, I hear directly from Iowans that they're hurting. They're extremely fed up with Democrats' dysfunction in Washington, D.C. And I think the number one thing I keep hearing from people is they want to know if Chuck Schumer thinks that every day is still getting better during this shutdown for the average Iowan or the average American. And that's simply not the case. And when you look at what Iowans are worried about, it's making sure they can put food on the table for their family. We are right in the middle of one of the biggest deployments ever right now for our National Guard, and they're worried about their paychecks. I actually had a military dad say to me his son is thinking about trying to get a loan to cover things while he's in the middle of this shutdown. And then you look at the TSA agents and the air traffic controllers, right? I mean, that's what Iowans are seeing, and they understand that Democrats are the ones who need to provide the votes in the Senate to get this done.
NBC News is out with a new poll of Americans, and it seems to suggest that Americans are blaming your party, the Republicans. 52% say the president and the Republican Party are to blame for this shutdown. 42% say Democrats. How do you respond to that? How do you explain that?
Well, it's a simple math equation, John. The 5 Democrats that need to get on board to get the government open, they could do that tomorrow if they want to. And that means that our military would get paid, that those SNAP benefits would flow, and that we would make sure we're taking care of the needs of this country. When you talk about what they're asking for, they're completely unreasonable in asking for $1.5 trillion in new spending, including health care for illegal immigrants. I mean, we're seeing now, John, a party that has totally embraced socialism. They've embraced taking care of illegals over Americans. They've embraced defund the police. We're seeing that rhetoric return in the election in New York City right now. Iowans are certainly not buying any of that. We want to see the rest of the country look more like Iowa, not like New York City or California.
One of the outliers among Democrats right now is Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman. Here's what he has to say about what's going on. Listen.
I feel like the Democrats really need to own the shutdown. I mean, we're shutting it down. I know why they claim, because they want to address the tax credits, and I fully support that. I voted for all of their RCRs every single time, and I refuse to put 42 million Americans in the kinds of food insecurity. Now, this is all is solved by just reopen our government, and the people are now paid.
Sounds like a pretty simple solution. Why do you think more aren't joining his point of view?
I don't understand it, John. I think that you look at Catherine Clark saying that they don't care that people are going to hurt. They need this leverage point. This is all about their hatred for President Donald J. Trump, plain and simple. Look, I'm for making sure we have access to health care, for keeping those premiums down, having a bigger conversation about how we do that, and for keeping the government open. But Democrats are playing politics right now and risking all 3 of those things. So I agree with Senator Fetterman. Let's get the government back open. Let's have those conversations and work for the American people, which is what they sent us there to do.
If you flash way back to 2013, a guy named Barack Obama, who occupied the Oval Office, said that government shutdowns are a bad deal. Listen.
Shutting down the government just because you don't like a law that was passed and found constitutional. No Congress before this one has ever in history been irresponsible enough to threaten default, to threaten an economic shutdown, to suggest America not pay its bills, just to try to blackmail a president into giving them some concessions. We're not going to submit to this kind of total irresponsibility. Congress needs to pay our bills on time. Congress needs to pass a budget on time. Congress needs to put an end to governing from crisis to crisis.
Oh, how things have changed among Democrats since 2013, it would seem.
Yeah, and you've heard a lot of those same words out of Senator Chuck Schumer these past couple of weeks. And again, I'd like to have the Chuck Schumer of today page the Chuck Schumer of 5 years ago when he was saying the same thing about these shutdowns being devastating for the American people. Not only do they hurt real families and put the future of our country at risk, but they also truly are taking our country backward in terms of how much money we're spending. It's hundreds of millions of dollars that shutdowns actually cost taxpayers for work that's not happening. My office has been open through this shutdown. We're hearing stories of people who can't, get through to these government agencies. Those people are still going to get paid when all is said and done for work they didn't do. Meanwhile, we're not getting answers from the IRS, from Social Security, from the VA. So it's in the best interest of the American people to get the government back open. It's what I voted for. It's what Senate Republicans have been consistently voting for. A few Democrats have joined us. We just need 5 more. So if you're watching this, you're planning on maybe traveling in the next couple of weeks for Thanksgiving, let's say, give Chuck Schumer and the Democrat senators a call. Tell them to get the government back open, or your family plans could be at risk, not to mention the lives and livelihoods of thousands upon thousands of American people.
It's a mess. Republican Congresswoman Ashley Hinson of Iowa. Congresswoman, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.